Hey, it worked finally. Wow, I have no idea what happened there, but I had to restart that about 4 times. I don't know. Sorry about that. Hope you're all doing well. And I hope that is it for any technical issues or otherwise, because that was stressful. Anyway, if you're returning, you know the drill. Say hello when you're here. Let me know you're here. If you're new, you have to be a subscriber for at least 5 minutes to contribute in the chat. And just please be civil and courteous to other people. I'm sure I don't have to remind you. So, yeah, we have a discussion, a Q&A session, whatever you want to talk about, truth-related stuff. Eternal being, Miriam, hello. So, yeah, I just want to, I thought I would start today's discussion on September 11th, seeing as it's tomorrow, and, it's Truther's favorite holiday. So, Tom Burris, hello. So, yeah, if you're here, just say hi. Let me know you're here. Let everybody know you're here. And we can talk about anything. The topic of the day is 9/11, but we don't even have to talk about it. There's a lot of talk around Leaves of Grass, hello, around events that might happen in September, specifically 9/22 or 9/23. A lot of people are very, excited about that date. And hello, Apotheosis. My sister is getting married tomorrow. Good. That's exciting. Hope it goes well. Monday's a strange day to get married, isn't it? But cool. It's a good day. Good date for getting married. The alchemical marriage. But yeah, in Sri Lanka, wow, that's exotic. So yeah, okay, we all know 9/11, 2001, and what that was all about. We know that it shows up in a multitude of movies and TV shows as symbolism, and that it's about the two becoming one, the twin pillars collapsing, and the one pillar being raised in its place. So it's essentially a symbol for telling you to take the middle pillar. And that's why it happened on 2001, because it's 201, so 2 to 1. And, the event 201 in 2020, same thing. 201 is 2 to 1. So, yeah, pull it. So, yeah, the whole controversy, shall we say, surrounding that event. Dupsy Daisy, hello, welcome. We can talk about that to some extent, but we have to be mindful of where we are and what we say. So, yeah, right? So we don't get into trouble. Aristocat, much love, TrueLove, and chat, hello. So, yeah, the whole event that happened 2001, we all remember it. Just a little bit of reminiscing where I was on the day. I was on my way to work, and I remember seeing the sky being very sharp, clear blue, and there were no clouds. And I did think that was unusual. And I was working in advertising at the time in somewhat of a high rise, like a semi-high rise in downtown Toronto. And I guess I had just come into the office, and one of my coworkers came out into the hallway to say that a plane had hit. And I thought, well, that's odd. But I was thinking it was one of these smaller planes. And then a few minutes later, she said there was a second one. And I immediately said, well, that's no coincidence. Obviously, it's something deliberate going on. Just misplaced a casual few trillion. Quirky chick, hello. Rumsfeld said trillions missing on 9/10. That's right, Tom. Yeah. So yeah, like the event immediately sounded fishy, and like the narrative came out about the whole story about the terrorists and everything, and then the towers fell, and everybody was upset, and so we were sent home. Towards, I think it was towards the middle of the day, maybe just afternoon. The planes were stopped. It was very eerily quiet because there were no planes, and we have the major airport as well as the secondary airport on the island. So there's two airports and no planes were flying. So it was very quiet. So they sent us home, and it was just weird. It's like the whole time people were just sitting there watching it on the news, watching it on TV, which I thought was odd. Just like, well, aren't we here to work? Why is it's okay for you to sit here all day watching it on the news and not do any work? And I just continued working like like it was any ordinary day, because I didn't really think that there was any reason not to. And when I got home, I watched the whole thing on television, and there were things about it that were suspicious. And it was so long ago, I don't remember exactly when things struck me as odd. But I do recall thinking that it was odd because Bush was told about what had happened, and yet the order of events was out of place. And why was he still sitting there in front of all these children reading a useless storybook when obviously New York was under attack? So it was weird. It was very weird. And then, the buildings collapsed because the fires were too intense, and, structural integrity of the buildings couldn't handle it. They told us this, right? So yeah, it was all suspicious and weird. And the fact that Bush said he was told about the first plane hitting, but he wasn't. He was told about the second plane. And then, that documentary that just happened to appear with the French people who happened to be filming the fire department on the day and happened to catch it as it goes into the building. Yeah, I've considered doing a breakdown of this event, but it is highly sensitive. It is highly touchy. It's a very touchy subject. So again, have to be careful because of everybody's attachments and beliefs of what happened, and people get upset and censored. So I've said here and there my insights into this event, and perhaps I might at one point do something, but I'll put it on my website. I won't put it on public platform because of that reason. But if there's multiple ways to see this event, like every event, but if you're able to see the layers of it and the hidden messages in it, it's very revealing. The Building 7 with the World Trade Center prefix and a church across the street. Yeah. I think the book Bush was reading got Mandela'd as well, because they famously had it upside down and now it's the right way up. Yeah, I don't subscribe to the Mandela thingy. Marie Eve, United Hearts. There's a filter on the live chat. Make sure you select all messages. Thanks for reminding me. I always forget. Dupsy, Bush reading I Pet Goat. And the book was upside down, very telling. He knew it was coming, and the kids were chanting Plane Hit Steel. Yeah, like that whole thing was bizarre. The accounting offices that disappeared at the Pentagon had previously been renovated, hardened against bomb blasts, and nicknamed the catcher's mitt. That's funny. I didn't know that. It's like there's so many little details in this thing. I have not looked into the details. So I know a lot of people have delved into it in great detail and know all these little intricacies. Once I figured out what it actually meant, I didn't really feel the need to go and look at it again. But all these little details are very interesting. There was a car bomb the same day that went off, but it was memory hold. What's memory hold? I mean, it was, people don't talk about it. Yeah, and then that was another thing, like the whole story surrounding the Pentagon and the leaked messages, like on the phone, on the plane. Like you can't make calls off the plane, especially back then. And they've been tested that you can't even make phone calls from that height. So it was very bizarre. Not true. You know what I mean? Kind of forgotten about, may not be important though in relation. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear anything about it, but it might be relevant. A seagull can crush the nose of an aluminum plane, except on that day, aluminum can penetrate concrete and steel. Yes, exactly. I know. The irony. It is interesting how science just sort of disappeared. Ryan Stavely says no one died on 9/11. I think it could be well the case, but it's controversial to say. I would agree with that. Was filled with symbolism. Symbolism is a language of mysteries. Indeed, indeed. Well, because 9/11 is Christ. It's iXXi. It's the entirety of this story. It is your story. And the story of 9/11 that happened that day is a grand production of the exit, of your story, of merging the two pillars and becoming one and getting out of here. That's what the whole point of the production is. So all of the symbols are a detailed example of the one story that I show you in every breakdown and every decode that I do. Which is why I have wanted to do a breakdown of it. But as I said, it's a very sensitive subject. The seal of Saturn between two pillars. Well, iXXi is 9/11. It's Christ. It's the fabric of this reality is the XX. It's the mirror in between. So 9/11, 11/11, 9/9. It's all the same thing. Yeah, and the money, they pretty much told us the quote, deep state did it. Well, it's part of the movie. We live in a movie. It's all part of the movie. And it was there to send a message. And, I think the biggest tell is that the towers were built to come down. And the whole interest, like the whole plaza of all the buildings were built for this event. They were set up for this. So that was very telling. And one of the buildings, I think it was building 5, was the one with the gold in it that was missing. Because there has to be a building with gold, because it's all about the gold, finding your AU, the gold at the end of the rainbow, the treasure chest, your heart, finding the heart in building 5. 5 is the star, the Venus. Robert, hello. Been a while since I caught alive. Well, we're glad you're here. They were literally built to come down. Yeah, they were. I mean, that was pretty shocking. And I found, in going back and looking at it, and you know, with the whole the buzz around the decode of Back to the Future, because, you know, famously Back to the Future, the 9/11 at the end, when he goes back to the future in his DeLorean, and you know, I've done a decode on it, but anyway, so several years ago, I looked into that movie, and then I looked at the other film that's connected to it, also by Robert Zemeckis, which was The Walk, and it was about the Twin Towers and this tightrope walker from France who walked between the towers. I wrote detailed notes on this thing, and it blew my mind how interconnected that story is with Back to the Future, but also how this based on a true story, supposedly. So it's based on a true story about this guy who walked between the towers before they were even finished. So like all of that was part of the story of why the towers were built. This guy was supposed to walk between them as well. Like all of that was scripted. I mean, that really blew my mind in terms of time and understanding, you know, how all of these things are connected. I don't even know where my notes are on that anymore, but it would be interesting to find them, to go back and to be able to explain how those things are interconnected, because it was really quite fascinating and really blew apart perception of time, and made me understand clearly how these buildings were set up to come down, and they were set up for all of it was all interconnected. Construction started in 1968, 33 years prior. Yeah. The buildings were loaded with asbestos and would have cost a fortune to upgrade. One of the reasons no takers on the lease except Lucky Larry. And the man walked around the world and said to be the king, "Sir, I come from France." Circumference. Anita, that's funny. Well, circumference is part of pi. So the ratio of the circumference to, I think it's the circumference to the radius, pi r squared, the ratio of the circumference to the radius is pi. Is it not? Is that right? But so this guy who comes from France, the tightrope walker who walked between the pillars, he is Mercury. He is the connector between the two towers. He's the one who creates the bridge between the two hemispheres of the brain. That's why, sir, I come from France, circumference is pi, Mercury. So the tightrope between the two is the bridge between the two pillars or two hemispheres of the brain. My phone is 91% charged. How cute. Evolvement. Hello, I'm glad you're here. The whole RAAC concrete scandal happening here in the UK is telling too for timing. Yeah, I was noticing that. We were talking about that in the Discord, and it's kind of weird. This concrete, they know what they know its lifespan, they know what it can do, they know that it needs to be replaced, and yet they've built all of these schools out of it, and all of a sudden they're concerned that these schools are going to collapse or have issues. It's kind of odd. Project for New American Century, Greater Israel. I'm not really familiar with that, but the wording makes sense to me. Spotless Leopard, hello. Isn't there a Time magazine cover from 1968 showing Rockefeller and the towers and the time on his watch is 9/11? I vaguely recall something like that. But I mean, they know what it's all about, because, the reason that 9/11 is recurring in all of these films and everything isn't about the date of 9/11 2001 necessarily. Yes, in some cases it is, because those buildings were built to come down on that day. But the reason they were built to come down on that day is because of what it means. And what it means is it's about the awakening. It's about awakening into Christ consciousness, because 9/11 is iXXi. Everything here is about iXXi, the emergency. We live in a 911 trauma center. Everything here is geared towards your awakening. And that's why that is part of the great work, because it's all about the awakening. So a lot of people woke up at that time. A lot of people saw, like, this isn't normal. What is this? This is weird. And you notice a lot of people were like, oh, it's like a movie, because it is a movie. It's a movie. So it's very difficult to grasp that concept if you're in the old mind, the physical mindset. Most of us are beyond that point. So yeah, like the whole idea of things that show up in movies and TV shows and pictures or whatever about 9/11 is because everything is about 9/11. So yeah, I mean, if there's a picture of him and he has the towers behind him and, Rockefeller, sorry. What time is it? It's 9/11. It's time to wake up. 11/11, the wake up call. There was an earthquake that happened the other day at 11/11. Time to wake up. So it's all about waking up. But when you see that some of these things are totally orchestrated, because it's part of the great work, which is to wake you up. One tower, male, the other female. The replacement building is built like two snakes twisting towards the sky. I haven't had a close look at the new building. But yeah, I mean, the two pillars represent the twin pillars of duality, the male and the female, and them coming together as one is the Kundalini rising. Not many are familiar. Any thoughts on Deb Tavares? She puts out good info, like on primary water energy weapons, but also seemed to put out fake NASA documents. She's disinfo. Yeah, I came across her some time ago. I think maybe 2017, 2018. She's disinfo. Did you follow the prison break story? Yes, I did. So yeah, if you want to talk about it here, you can talk about it here. Depsy Daisy. I worked at an optometrist office, and there was a catalog that came out a month before that had a skyscraper leaning to miss a plane. Oh, that's funny. Promoting flexible frames. The pictures on my Twitter. That's really cool. It's amazing that you found it. But I mean, this is it. Like, if you look at it from the perspective that, like, okay, well, where you are now, right? So you are aware of a lot of the deception. You are aware of the big story about awakening, and that basically the whole point is to wake up to what the true nature of our reality is so that you can exit out. And when you're aware of that, at first it's scary, right? So you have that fear perception, and you're trying to wake other people up, and you're kind of doing it out of fear, warning people, what have you. When you get to the next level where you realize it's all play and you can see it from that perspective, you start to think like, you kind of start to think like an elite in that perspective, because you can see that it's all play. And so when you see pictures of, duping delight, or you see pictures of these people laughing about or making fun of the ignorant masses, or that sort of thing, you can kind of understand, because you now see things from that perspective, and it is kind of funny. But if you're still looking at things through a physical perspective, and you're looking at things through the eyes of suffering, and seeing it that way, and not understanding the play, not understanding that it's all a play or a movie, then you aren't going to find any amusement in it. You're not going to see the joke. But it is a joke. So, I mean, yeah, it's not funny when you're on the other side of it, for sure. It's not. But it's a play. It's a movie. So, and everything that is inferred along with it. If you catch my drift, the tragedies that I talk about on my second channel, the little unfoldings of the dramas. Some people believe the awakening is another utopia trap to get us trapped in another cycle. That's a fear trap right there. That's fear talking. And, the best advice I have to offer about that sort of talk is think it through logically. Does it make sense? Because, it's valid to consider that that's a possibility. And on one sense, if you're looking at things as you are stuck in a prison and you are controlled by something other than you, and you are at the mercy of other beings and stuck in this soul trap of the solar system of reincarnation loop, then you'll see it that way. So your job is to save yourself. Your job is to get out of that. And how do you get out of that? You have to get out of it through your thinking, through your brain, through your mind. And you have to understand that everything is love. If everything is love, then you're not going to be trapped here against your will in a prison. You're going to have been put here because you wanted to be here to experience what it's like to be human, to not be an eternal, infinite God, to understand what it's like to go through the life and death cycle. But because you're immortal and you forgot, you experience death. But death is an illusion. But the death puts you through the reincarnation cycle of the red and the blue because the whole creation is split. In order to have creation in the first place, there has to be separation. So this duality was created, but it's only perception. So if you are seeing things from a physical perspective and you believe that there's powers above you, when in reality, everything is you. So you have to bring that perception back to wholeness, back to understanding who you really are. If you're stuck in the perception that you are a victim and you're at the mercy of some external God or external entity, whether that's benevolent or malevolent, then you are going to perpetuate this reincarnation trap because you believe you're in it. So the only way to get out of it is to realize that you're not in it. You chose to be here, if that makes sense. I'm probably not explaining it very clearly. So in the sense that if you believe that you are in a soul recycler, which to some extent we are, but only because we believe we are, then you will perpetuate the soul recycler. If, like I've talked about with the 3 pillars, you can reincarnate here, or you can reincarnate in the other world, or you can exit out. It's your choice, and you choose while you are here. So there's nothing wrong with any of it. The only thing that makes it wrong is your perception. So if you think that you're stuck in jail, then you will be stuck in jail because you think it. So you have to unthink it. That makes sense. New building depicts as above, so below. I think it's an open Pandora's box. Yes, I did talk about Back to the Future, Hellraiser. I've never seen Hellraiser, but there's plenty of movies that tie into 9/11. The new building is a syringe, and we know what that carries. Well, this is all fear talk. You have to see things through symbolism, and if you want to perpetuate the fear stuff, that's fine, but I'm not going to. So you're planes and lawnmowers. No, well, you just said you know what the syringe means and what it carries, so that's fear talk. It's not about syringes and all of that sort of stuff. The whole, like, the singular tower is about Jacob's ladder and exiting the system. And so if you're seeing it as a syringe and making connotations about it being connected to, then that's in the fear trap, in the fear camp. So you gotta look beyond that. Yeah, but it is totally to do with fear. Lighthouses often stand alone or far away from other lighthouses. You're a lighthouse for those lost ships that sailed into the vast ocean, but those sailing to the dark come with fear. Yeah, like the thing is, though, you have to go into the dark to see the light. You have to face the shadows, and you have to face the darkness to realize that it's an illusion. Like the fear and everything is an illusion. I won't believe in any supposed God that redirects me back, nor any supposed ancestors. Yeah, well, okay, so here we're talking about reincarnation and past, like near-death experiences and that sort of thing. Because if you listen to most of those stories about near-death experiences, there's a common thread among them that either they see Jesus or they see ancestors, or that they're told they have some work to do on earth. They have a divine purpose and that they have to come back here and finish, and they come back with some renewed purpose. And a lot of times like they don't want to come back because they feel this total bliss and love and everything, and yet they come back here and they know what they're coming back to. So I find it very ironic, but a lot of people do say they saw Jesus and they saw an ancestor who sent them back here. Well, when they come back here, they live their lives quite differently. I mean, these are just the people who talk. These are the people who are vocal about it. Not everybody who has a near-death experience or everybody who has this sort of experience shares their story. So we don't know about everybody. And maybe there are people who have it who don't do anything. Maybe there are people who have had near-death experiences who haven't seen anybody. And a lot of times there's people who have near-death experiences who just see themselves hovering above their bed or their body, and then they come back and then that's it. So they didn't have anything more than that. But so if we're talking about people who see a god or an ancestor or something, those people are never told the truth. They're never told about how to exit the system. They're never told about what they're ultimately supposed to do here to get out, or even that they should be getting out. They do feel this bliss and this love, and they don't want to come back to this place, which is for the most part suffering and 911 trauma center. So it's understandable, but because they come back with a different perspective than that suffering and trauma perspective lessons, doesn't entirely go away. I would imagine it's just not as intense as it was before, because they have a changed perspective, which is your perspective, your perception is what's supposed to change, because it's consciousness. Your consciousness has to evolve, has to change. So these people who see Jesus or ancestors who tell them, you have to go back, you have to go back. And despite them not wanting to go back, they will go back, and they do good, or they do good deeds, or live this purpose. But they aren't on the path to exit out. And for a while I was like, okay, well, why aren't they telling them? Well, they can't tell them, because you have to find it yourself. They can't tell you. And so you're going to see what you believe in. If you believe in, this sort of thing, then you'll see it. And we probably do see our relatives and that on the other side. So I don't think there's anything really wrong with it per se. It's, well, the whole purpose of you is to find your way out of the labyrinth, right? Miriam, so funny. I suddenly noticed that the way your top is at the moment, it's like your head comes out of a keyhole. I know I had another cardigan that's the same as this that is blue, and I was wearing that not too long ago. Atheos is all the ones who have been indoctrinated see Jesus. Seems like it, yeah. Do they choose to go back, or are they kind of forced? Well, they choose to come back. I mean, we don't hear about the ones who don't come back because they die. So I don't even know if you don't come back, do you even have a choice? I think that it has to be a choice. You have to choose to be here. But, you can be of two minds of it. You can be of the perspective that this place is a horrible place and you wouldn't want to come back here, or you can be of the mind that the reason you are sent back here is because you still have learning to do, so you can exit. Because if you don't do the work while you're here, you can't exit. So if you die, then you have to restart and reboot, and you go back to nothing. You forget. You go through the forgetfulness and you have to start over. But if you go back, you start where you were. So if they're sending you back, then you probably have more potential to rise at that level than you would if you went back and started over again. So you might see it as they're sending you back to this hellhole to suffer, and they want you to be stuck in this incarnation trap so you never get out. Sure, you can have that perspective if you want to, but I don't see what it serves you. I don't see what good it does you. If you want to see it as if everything is love, then that perception does not help you at all, and it's not accurate. If everything is love, then they're sending you back here to get your mind out of the negativity and the suffering so that you can rise and exit out. So if you're going into feeling like when you die and you feel this pure bliss and pure love, then why would you think anything else other than this place is pure love? So yeah, we experience suffering, but how else do you grow? You grow by making mistakes, and you grow by suffering. And a lot of people don't like the idea that this place is suffering, but we are creating the suffering. We're the ones who create it out of the duality. So the duality is what creates the contrast and keeps the motion going, because motion is what creates growth. It would be stagnant if it was all bliss all the time. There wouldn't be any growth. There wouldn't be any change. There wouldn't be anything to learn from. And this contrast is what creates that. If you start to understand that we are the designers of all this, it's all for us, by us, the concept of an enemy is ridiculous. We are the darkness and the light. Integrate both and you become whole. Exactly, Adam. I mean, in the Bible, you are, I am. And the Bible tells you, God says, I am that I am. Meaning that the I am is everything. The I am is you. And God also says in the Bible, I am the good and the evil. The good, I create that. The evil, I create that. The I. So when you say I, you point to here, which is the heart. Whenever you say, who are you? I am, point to the heart, because everything is created from the heart. And if this world is created out of heartbreak, then that's why there's suffering here. You don't think there are nefarious beings that want to keep us here? No, I don't. The only nefarious beings are generated for you, by you, to overcome and alchemize. There's no outside enemy. Well said, Adam. Yeah. If the whole point of these so-called nefarious beings, the only reason they exist at all is because we collectively created them when we fell in consciousness and forgot who we really are. So the whole point of this realm is to forget who you are and then remember all over again. And if you see it that way, then you understand the game, in a sense. It's kind of a game. And if you perpetuate this idea that you are subservient and ruled over by evil beings, how are you going to get out of it? How are you going to overcome the concept of being under the thumb of a nefarious alien being? I don't see any escape from that. And I talked about this in my Bad Things series. There's a playlist called Bad Things. It doesn't make any sense. If you are a nefarious being and you have trapped somebody, let's say even just something as simple as a kidnapping, are you going to leave the door open so that the person you kidnapped can get out? No. So why, if we're here at the mercy of some nefarious being, why would everything here be geared towards telling you how to get out? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you have a system built in that helps you escape if you are trapped here by nefarious beings? Okay, so then they go into free will. Okay, well then you can't have it both ways. You cannot be at the mercy of some nefarious being and kidnapped and held hostage and be here under your own free will. It contradicts itself. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're here under your own free will, then you can get out of your own free will. Therefore, you're not held hostage by anybody. It's all perception. It's the True Man Show. It is, yeah. So we created gods above ourselves. We created these beings above ourselves so that we could feel small. We could feel little. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. We're subservient to these gods we created above ourselves because we forgot who we really are. And now we're remembering who we really are. And so we no longer need those gods that we created, which is essentially the ego. It's a prison of the mind. It is, yeah. It's just all thought, all mind. Everything is mind. Empower yourself. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Robert Arthur, aren't good and evil just constructs of this realm made to trigger emotions to get involved in the game or to take quest or cause? Can you explain that a little bit better? Like how is good and evil a construct of the realm? How is it created? If you have a nightmare, where does the monster come from? Who generated it? Good question, Adam. Like, consider, I one day saw that I was the cause of trouble I was getting in my life. My goal today is to not run from trouble, but to become someone not troubled by trouble. Oh, that's beautifully said. Someone not troubled by trouble. I like that. Perhaps through law or man made the rules. Okay, so if man made the rules, because man makes law, isn't that right? Man makes the law. And so if man is making the law and man is making the rules, then man is the one who created good and evil. And then you can still get out of it because man is the one that created it. So where is the authority that rules over you in that instance? I have had sleep attacks. I can feel them as if they were right there. It's a creepy and sometimes hard to want to go to sleep. Are you talking about sleep paralysis? Because anytime you have any type of experience like that, just turn to it and say, go away. It's just a thought form. It's not real. Just face it and tell it to go away and it'll leave you alone. Apotheosis, it's all about going beyond duality. Stop eating from the tree of good and evil. is all about going beyond duality. Like the whole, like the twin pillars have to come down, and you have to merge them and create one, which is the tree of life. The tree of life is the singular tree in the middle, the vortex of the torus field. So when you are singular, let your eye be single. Let your eye be single means you see that the duality is an illusion, and you see things as one. You see it wholly. So you can understand that the duality is a perception, and there are two sides to everything. And a lot of time, a lot of the process is even understanding that there is duality to everything. And when you do see, you have to see the duality before you can unsee it, because seeing the duality shows you how this world is created and built, and then you collapse the duality and you see that they're both two sides of the same coin. And a lot of people don't want to see that good and bad are two halves of the same coin. So like I was telling somebody who's having a hard time getting through that perception, if you look at the yin yang circle, each half of the circle has a little bit of the other in it. So you have the white half and the black half, and there's a little dot on both sides, which shows that in the white half, there's a little bit of black, and in the black half, there's a little bit of white. So you're looking for that little bit that's in the darkness, the little bit of light that's in the darkness, to alchemize and merge them together to realize that it's not wholly bad. So if the bad, everything is just a perception, like William Shakespeare said, it is not, what did he say? It's something about things are not good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It is your perception that colors the event as good or bad. Somebody can go through a bad experience and come out of it a better person. And a lot of times you go through something horrible, some hardship, and you wouldn't want to have it, you wouldn't want to have that experience again, but you can come out of it a better person. You can come out of it with something better. So, the things that you holding on to might disappear, and it's devastating or upsetting, but you're making it a negative experience by holding on to something that is no longer serving you, no longer part of your existence, your story. It has to go away in order for something better to take its place. And so when you lament over its loss, it takes you time to refocus and redirect into the thing that comes in, takes its place, that might be much better. But those things have to fade away in order for better things to take its place. And I'm not saying that there's no reason for suffering or being upset. If you want to be upset, you have every right to be upset. You have every right to mourn the loss of things. You have every right to feel bad or sad or what have you. It's part of growth. It's part of the process. It's part of life. It's part of understanding loss and why do you feel this way? Learning about yourself and why you feel this way about certain things, why you're attached to certain things, why you love certain things, why you hate certain things, why you're triggered by certain things. That is just there to help you grow and learn about yourself, which is the whole purpose of this universe, is to grow and learn about ourselves. I feel the only laws are hermetic. Law 1, all is mind. Yeah, I agree. Perhaps fear-based, but if you don't follow the laws, even something as simple as not wearing a seatbelt, there are consequences. That makes us more slaves than free. Yeah, but this is all physical-minded stuff. So you can drive your car without a seatbelt. You only get in trouble if you get caught. I'm not advocating for this. It's an example. But you can drive your car without a seatbelt. But if you get caught, then you get a fine. But these are man-made laws, and the man-made laws do not trump universal laws. The universal laws are way more important, and the man-made laws are just there to keep people in control who can't think for themselves and, need to be controlled. Get beyond that. Get out of the physical mindset is what you have to look toward. Might make right here. I don't understand the comment. We project our reality from our perception, as within, so without. Exactly. There are people, I know people who drive without seatbelts all the time. They refuse to wear a seatbelt, and they're still driving around. They're still out there roaming around free. They're not encumbered by this law. They're not at home lamenting and saying, oh my gosh, I can't go anywhere because I refuse to wear a seatbelt. No, they go out there and they drive without a seatbelt because they refuse to wear one, because they have seen friends or family get killed by wearing a seatbelt. So to them, wearing a seatbelt is not advisable. So if they get pulled over, they know how to deal with it. They know how to confront it. But somebody who is in fear of those kinds of laws would not be so bold. One of the other things was this idea that, how do I put this? When you collapse the duality and you realize that it is all whole, then you're not at mercy of the ping pong game. You're not within the game of pong where it's bouncing between the poles, and you're not being toyed with as much. And it's a process. It's not something that happens instantaneously and never happens again. So don't think that once I've merged the pillars, I'm free, because you still have work to do. There's still things that come up in your experience. You're still affected by things because of who you are and what bothers you. So one of the things that was brought up when I posted my recent video was, but I was affected by 2020 because I lost my job because I refused to comply. Okay. Yes, those things happen. Things in life still happen. You're still going to have to participate in the story. Good things happen, bad things happen, but you're the one who makes it, whether it's good or bad. Yes, things are unpleasant. They make you uncomfortable. They make you feel bad. They make you hurt. You don't like it. You cry. It's physically painful, what have you. Those things are still going to happen, but how you deal with it is completely different. And so it doesn't affect you as much. And the more you work at this, the less it affects you, because you're able to see that this is just part of the process. And so when you see something bad happen, so like losing your job, yeah, it can be devastating. It can be upsetting. It being debilitating. It can cause you to lose everything. It can cause you to be, depressed. It can cause you to be homeless. Like, there's all sorts of horrible things that can come as a result of that. Or it could be the opposite. It could be freeing. It could be the best thing that happened to you because you realize that I hated that job anyway. This is freeing. I never had the courage to leave. And now that I don't have it anymore, there's a whole world of possibilities that's opened up to me all of a sudden. So what am I going to do with myself? This is the best thing I could have ever imagined. Wow, I'm totally liberated. The world is my oyster. It's all about how you look at it, but the event itself is neutral. So yeah, it's awful to some people, to other people, it's liberating and the best thing that could ever happen to them. So yeah, it still happens. You're still in the world, things are still going to come about in your story. It's how you deal with it that matters. And the point is to get to the place where you can see that it's all a play. Even in your own life, it's a play. And work on detaching yourself from it as this is me in this role, playing this part as part of the grand story of life. And this is the role I have to play in serving that story. And so if something comes along, it doesn't affect you as much emotionally because you can see that it's part of the story, part of the path that you have to take. So So yeah, you're not going to be completely in a bubble where nothing ever touches you and nothing ever happens, and you're not going to have upsets or tragedies, or people around you are going to live happily ever after all the time forever. It's all your perception. It's all your perspective. How do you choose to view it? How do you choose to deal with it? Law of the sea, law of the land. I don't even pay attention to that stuff. Like that, again, like law of the sea, law of the land. I mean, yes, it exists. It does. But that keeps you trapped in the physical. And because you're focused on the physical stuff, you're focused on, well, these people operate by land of the sea, these people operate by maritime law or law of the land, or what have you. And you're trying to figure out, how do I get out of this trap of being boxed in by other people's laws that I didn't agree to? How do I get out of the lose the legal name nonsense? And how do I stop participating in the system? You can't. The system is everywhere and it's here for a reason. So let it go. Don't even think about it. Why would it affect you? If you're a god, why would any of that affect you? It's a game to keep you stuck in that JB twin pillar nonsense. It's like law of the land or law of the sea. Which one are you? I'm neither. I don't adhere to either one. I don't care. I don't you don't go around breaking laws or anything. You don't go around causing trouble for yourself. Why would you? You just ignore it. It doesn't affect you because it isn't part of your mindset. It's not a focus. It's not something you pay attention to. It's like, yes, you play within the rules. You don't go around breaking things and causing trouble for yourself. But this whole idea of getting caught in losing the legal name and filing papers and all of that, it's nonsense. Don't even bother with that stuff. It's just going to make your life more difficult. It's going to make things harder for you, and you're going to end up having to go back and getting all that paperwork again at some point. You can't own anything without any of that paperwork, without a legal name. You can't participate in finance or commerce or business. You can't own a home. You can't own a car. You can't own a cell phone. Like all of these your credit card, like all of this stuff that this system is built on. If you can't participate in all of that, you're sure, like, minimize it and get it to as least involved as you possibly can, if that's important to you. But it doesn't matter. It's not important. Why should it be important? I'm driving. I'm working harder than ever. Spotless. It's definitely true. Things can seem terrible at first, can later on be a huge advantage, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you can change your perspective on certain things. Like I've talked about this before, went through terrible, horrible, miserable experience with this narcissistic, situation. And it was painful. Wouldn't wish it on anybody. Would never repeat it. And yet I learned a lot from it. I can find the good in it. Doesn't mean I think that the whole experience was good, but I can find the good in it. So yeah, I think a lot of people misunderstand that you're supposed to look at something awful and make it good. It's not what I'm saying at all. You're not supposed to look at the evil things and say that it's good. You're supposed to find the good in it. So it's not negating the awful things. It's not taking them and saying that it's okay to do this sort of thing. Not at all. You're trying to find the good in it to understand it better, and it neutralizes it. It alchemizes it. What do we do when they demand another lockdown? What are you all going to do? Party in the streets? So what? If that happens, you know, this is like, if it happens again, then it's supposed to be a huge wake-up call. And it's supposed to trigger an awakening in the people who have yet to awaken. That's what Maui was about. That's what, all of this is about. And the people who haven't been affected by it yet, that's like, the people who lost their jobs due to standing up to what happened last time. You had a choice, right? Yes, it was awful. I was upset by it. I was absolutely angry about it. I totally admit that. I was angry about it for a very long time. And I was resentful because it's like, here I was in a good place about it. I was enjoying my job. I was having a good time. I was on a good trajectory. I had opportunities coming my way, and all of a sudden it's gone. And then, I was thinking, oh, I'll just wait it out and I'll be able to go back. Years go by. My life is completely different now. And, looking back on it, it's like, okay, this is supposed to have happened to me. Just like it was supposed to have happened to all of the other people who stood up to it and said no. You think there's going to be no consequences to your actions? You think you're going to stand up to what's going on and not have it affect you negatively because you're going against the system? It's not even reasonable to consider that. I mean, you think that if you're going to stand up against the system that we perceive to be negative, because that's its role here. Its role is to operate the 911 trauma center, to wake you up. And so if you're going to go against that system, it's going to be a bumpy ride. But that's the point. The point is you have to be tough enough to continue on the path despite all of the bumps that come your way, because it's not for everybody. It's a narrow path for a reason. If you can't handle it, you're going to get knocked off. You're going to go back in the system. You're going to stick on the two pillars. So if this is a right path for you, all of the consequences be damned. I'm sticking to the path. That's my mantra. Whatever the hell they throw at me, come and give it to me. I'll take it because I'm not going to let go. I'm not going to give up. I'm on this path. I'm getting out. I'm done. And all of the consequences that come from standing up for my convictions and standing up for what I believe in and standing in the truth. So what? You have to be Job. You have to be the one who's willing to take it because you have the conviction to keep going. A lot of people don't have that because it's hard. It's the hardest thing you were ever going to do. And that's why it's a narrow path. That's why there's hardly anybody on it. So yeah, it isn't easy. Yeah, horrible things are going to happen. Yeah, if you stand up to the system, it's going to beat you down. Yeah, every day is going to be fucking brutal. But you have to keep going. And if you can get to the place where you start to see those things as beneficial and you start to look at where you're going as opposed to what you're leaving, then it starts to get easier and those things don't affect you as much. But it is not easy. No one said it was going to be easy. So you gotta look at where you're headed. You have to be like Job. Job, everything was thrown at him. He's like, take it. I don't care. I don't need all of this stuff because I have my faith in where I'm going. Where am I? I'm gonna ignore any lockdown, and there's not stopping me anybody. Here's what I did with the lockdown the first time. I ignored it. Yes, I was affected by it. There are places I couldn't go to, but so what? Those places I didn't want to go to anyway, because if you don't want me, I don't want you. I lost my gym membership. So I now work outside. Uh, the restaurants, I don't want to go there anyway. But all the other places that locked me out, I'm like, goodbye. I don't care. I don't need you. I didn't pay attention to it. They told us we weren't supposed to go into parks. I went into the parks. I walked around the parks. I just ignored it. I did what I wanted to do, and you should too. Just do what you want to do. It's don't break the law or anything, like this isn't a law. This stuff that they put out last time, they were guidelines. Understand the law, understand what they're trying to pull over your eyes, because a lot of people don't understand that. They intimidated you with fear tactics. They intimidated you with the idea that there are cops everywhere trying to arrest you or fine you or charge you. And some people did get charged, but it's nonsense anyway. Understand the law, and then you take the power back in your own hands because you know what you're dealing with. So if somebody tries to intimidate you, I never wore a mask, not one day. But like I said, it was not easy. The easy path would have been to wear a mask. The easy path would have been to comply. But I did not comply. I stood my ground, and very few people did. I didn't see a single person when it was the beginning of the whole thing. I was the only person in every store who was not wearing a mask. People tried to stop me at the door, and I said, no, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm exempt. I wasn't going to listen to it because I knew the truth. So I had that on my side, but it was not easy, and it was terrifying. I wasn't always confident about it, but I was like determined that I wasn't going to comply. I wasn't going to bend over and take it. And a lot of people did. And this is a test for you. This whole thing is a test. Are you going to comply? Are you going to follow what they want you to do? Or are you going to stand in your authenticity and your authority and knowing who you really are and knowing the truth? And are you going to follow that path? Or are you going to bend over? If you're going to bend over, you might as well just do it now. Go and line up and get a jab. You might as well do that because they have you. Do you want to stand in your own authenticity and your own power? Then don't pay attention to any of that. It's irrelevant. It's a story. So, yeah, I didn't pay attention to any of it, and it was not easy. And yet afterwards, I have people like my super comes up to me and says, I remember seeing you at the beginning of COVID, and you just walked right into the store and you said, I'm exempt. And you just kept walking. And he remembered that. He was one of the people who was scared, who followed all the rules, who was sanitizing all the time, wearing a mask and yelling at people because they weren't complying. And he saw me do that. And then when his eyes were opened and he realized that he was dumb and he was duped, he looked at me with admiration because he knew that I knew the truth. He knew that I wasn't going to comply, and he understood, and he saw my power and how I stood in it. And yeah, at the time, I was hurting. I was in tears because nobody else was helping. Nobody else was standing up to it. But I did it, and it made me stronger. And the second time around is nothing. First time around, yeah, okay. They're probably going to hit us with some other whammy if they do a second time. It's not going to be the same. Why would it? They're not going to waste it with another repeat. I mean, was World War II the same as World War I? I'm going to ignore any lockdown. There's nothing stopping anybody from doing. Yeah, exactly. Alice in Wonderland, when she figured out the court and rulers were ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. When you see through it and you just see them as you're just nothing but a pack of cards. Ryan Stevenson, I see the lockdown restrictions and mask offers as a chance to grow. Yeah, well, good way to see it. And individuals individuate further. Deep down, we know that these measures are insane, but pick your battles wisely. Exactly. Here's a situation. I talked about this during the whole 2020 thing. There were instances where there were buildings I needed to go to get like a parking permit or what have you. And this dealing with the city, which is government, and the government's not about to bend or whatever. So I called them up and I said, hey, listen, do you have policies, like mask policies? And they said, yeah, we do. And I said, well, I'm exempt, so how can you accommodate me? And so they told me how they could accommodate me. Damn it, I have cramp in my foot. So I was not willing to accommodate them. I wasn't going to burst in there and cause a scene and say, oh, you have to accommodate, I'm not wearing a mask. I called them and asked them, and I said, look, I'm exempt, so how can you accommodate me? So you don't have to be aggressive about it. You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be hostile about it. And, you know, there were times where I was, because I was poorly treated and shocked by their behavior, especially at the beginning. But the opportunity exists for you to ask and say, listen, I'm exempt, or I can't do this. So how can we do this? I know we have to conduct business. How can we go about doing this? And for the most part, people can find a way. And if they can't, then you say, okay, well, goodbye. So, I mean, in the case with my gym, I called them up and I said, listen, I hear you're making mask wearers have to wear, non-mask wearers have to bring a doctor's note. Is this the case? Yes. I said, well, okay, if that's the case, then I would like to cancel my membership, because I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. So, and that didn't even last very long, the irony. I think they lost quite a few members because of it. I used to nomad. The system pays a lot of attention to you when you're wandering about aimlessly. Yeah, people, this isn't even nomad. I sat in my car in a parking lot and the police came up to me and asked me if I was okay. I'm like, am I not allowed to sit in the parking lot in my car? It's a little ridiculous. Why are you snooping in my business just for sitting in my car in a parking lot? But yeah, like the system is built to, you know, keep you in the system. We don't have to like it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. If it happens again, it'll be a marker on the consciousness. It woke many people, and we'll see that most won't comply and will reflect where we all are, like most world events. Yeah. Because, you know, listen, like I said, like this was a test. A lot of people failed. Most people failed. A lot of people knew that it was bogus. A lot of people knew that the whole way they handled it was badly. That the whole situation didn't need to be handled that way, but they caved because they didn't have the guts to stand up and say, I'm not going to comply with this nonsense, you know? And if we did have the guts to say that, we wouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. But most people have been conditioned to comply, and so it's easier to comply. And so they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. But now, after everything that's been said and done, after all of the information that they've gathered, after all the nonsense they've been put through, a lot of people are angry. So to have that all affect them directly and shake them up like that is hopefully going to teach them that this time they don't comply the way that they did before. And, you know, I don't know. I just, I'm very disappointed in a lot of the people I thought had the courage of their convictions to say no, bent over, and they made excuses. They made excuses like, you know, their family, they have to feed their family, they have children, you know, this sort of thing. It's like, no, you didn't see another alternative. So you didn't even bother to try. You didn't bother to get creative. So your answer was make an excuse and justify it so that you can feel better about it, but you caved. And so if nothing has changed since then, and you're still in that vulnerable position, and this thing happens again, how are you going to deal with it again? A lot of people are just going to say, oh, well, here we are again. I'm going to just take it. I'm not going to go through all that resistance that I did the first time. I'm just going to do it. I'm still here. What's the big deal? It's just another, it's not a big deal. I'll just keep going. But then there are other people who are like, hell no, I'm not doing that. But when it comes down to it and you're, nose against the grindstone, you're forced to make a decision, what are you going to choose? Well said, 100%. Yes, be Job. A diamond is produced through pressure. Exactly, Apotheosis. Like the pressure, the 911 trauma center is there to help you rise. Your whole, turning carbon into crystal. You can't turn carbon into crystal without pressure. He was called Job for a reason. One door closes, another opens. Indeed, yes, yes, and yes. Hello, yes, guidelines and mandates are not laws. Indeed. Know the difference. Spotless. The day they mandated masks in Britain 24/7, I wore a sleeping mask over my mouth to do shopping, just walked around laughing. So I took their energy and used it to serve me. Yeah, at least you were laughing about it. Sun Tzu, a police officer tried to stop my son from taking his family to a beach in their hometown in California. My son ignored him and looked right through him as if he was an NPC. Yeah, these are not the droids you're looking for. I believe everyone here is on the same page, so amen. Indeed. Lockdown was a great time for me, out every day. Yeah. Just like the Maui fires with the barricades, some people drove on through and lived. The ones that turned around died in their vehicles. So they say. John Cross, hello. TrueLove, you're like an advice columnist for truthers. I like that. That's a good description. I think it's cute. I'm like the Carrie Bradshaw for truthers. Sun Tzu, I was hiking outdoors 2020 June, 1,000 feet above sea level in ultra Lib Marin County, California, and hikers demanded I put on a mask. That's just stupid. You're in the outdoors. Yeah, I had people come up to me, after a while, I had people come up to me and say that they were happy to see that I wasn't wearing a mask. So I tried to encourage them to do the same, but they wouldn't because they didn't have the guts. And, just even that meant the world to me because it gave me the courage to keep going, the courage to just keep persisting. And, there were times where it was really, really hard. And also, I just didn't want to deal with all of that sometimes. So I would find out alternative ways, like order online and pick it up in a parking lot or something. But there were times where it was like for my own mental health, I needed to go in the store. I needed to have some normalcy. So I was like, damn this, I'm going in the store. So it was not easy, but it's not easy for a reason. Otherwise, everybody would do it. I don't have a lot of trust that the majority won't comply and cave again. Yeah, exactly, Sun Tzu. You can talk a big game on the other side. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But when it comes down to it and they're faced with it and they can't think their way out of it, they're going to comply. They're going to take the easy way out because that's what they do. We all have to remove our masks fake personas, too many two-faced people about. Yeah. I mean, it's all about getting to be authentic and removing the mask of the ego or the character that we're playing in this tarot play, and getting to our authentic selves, the archetypal self, who you really are. Mark C, it's the paid monkey syndrome. You pay a monkey enough peanuts, he'll dance until his feet burn. Yeah, a lot of that is true. A lot of people, see, here's, a lot of times people are trapped by their jobs. They're owned by their jobs. And this is what this event revealed. It revealed how owned a lot of people are by their jobs. A lot of times it's because we have no savings. We have no backup plan. We like our jobs way too much. We have a family to pay. We have all these bills to pay. We're trapped in a lot of debt. We're trapped in a job that pays a lot, and trying to leave that job and go somewhere else is not easy, especially as you get older. As you get older and you have more seniority, more experience, you're more valuable. Leaving a company where you've put in a lot of time and a lot of years and a lot of energy and your resources and invested in building your career at that company, leaving to go somewhere else where you don't know the business, you don't know the job, you don't know the people. It's scary, especially the longer you spent at one company and you aren't used to going to new companies. It can be scary for people to leave, say, a job they've been at for 15, 20 years and go somewhere new. There's a lot of levels to fear. There's a lot of levels to people's life experience and what they're accustomed to and what they can tolerate. A lot of people do stick to a job for life because they're too lazy to leave. They're not go-getters. And that's totally fine. Some people are not go-getters. A lot of people are not go-getters, and they just get a job, and for them, that's all they want. They just stay there. A lot of people like to bounce around. A lot of people are very ambitious, and they're resourceful, and they are resilient, and they can do pretty much anything that they set their mind to, and bounce around. But that takes a great deal of experience and confidence and even practice. So, and you have to be very secure in your abilities to be able to do that. And a lot of people are just like, well, I can't go anywhere. I really like it here. And I'm, and a lot of times too, like a lot of people are saying, well, why don't you just start your own business? Some people can't. They're not resourceful. They don't know how to run a business, or they're not built to run a business. And it's not easy to run a business. So, it's easy to make suggestions. It's not easy to actually live it out and actually carry it out and to do that on a daily basis. But yeah, a lot of times you realize how much power your job has over you. There's an animated documentary called Beyond the Reset I recommend everyone watch before it's too late. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. Whatever happens as part of the story. But if you're worried about it and you're concerned, frankly, I'd say watch my channel more so that you're not worried about it. But, I'm not a prepper. I don't care about any of that. Like if something happens, I firmly believe that I will be guided to the right place at the right time. And I was guided here to be here for this time. So I was bounced around all over the place for quite some time before I ended up here. And I know I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here for this reason. And I'm supposed to be here for my family, for my parents. So, I'm certain that you are where you are supposed to be for the same reasons. We needed to see those, like I said, like if you are concerned about that, then do what you got to do. If you feel that you got to prepare for something, prepare. That's your path. It's not mine. It's yours. Do what you feel you need to do. I'm not going to tell you, like, if you feel that that's important, there's a reason you feel it's important. So trust that. And for me personally, I don't feel it's important. And, I'm not concerned about it. If that changes and I feel that there's a need for me to prepare, like say, the Canadian wildfires get too close and we have a situation like there was in Kelowna, then when the time comes, then I'll prepare for that. But I'm not going to sit here in fear, and I'm not going to sit here anticipating that the end of the world is coming and I need to pack a bag, because where am I going to go? How do you know where to go? We needed to see those comply to contrast what we believe to be true and further confirm our truth. For sure. Yeah, like again, it's just contrast. And that's what I like about Abraham Hicks, because the way she talks about the negative is just as contrast, which it is, which kind of lessens the impact of seeing something as traumatic or negative. We need our peanuts. Do not compare yourself to Carrie Bradshaw. Yeah, I know what you mean. Spotless. I'll check that. Amen Ra. Dear Abby for truthers. Sure. Nan. Hello, welcome. It's a request, and they know this, and they know it's all bogus. We know about domination and control. We learned what people are really like. I don't quite understand. Look at all the thumbs in the chat. How about giving me a thumbs up? Appreciate it. It's a request, and what is a request? Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah, it is a request, and yeah, if you comply, you're agreeing to the request, and yeah, we understand that now. So, when you're armed with knowledge and you understand the game, you know how to not play it. I often forget to hit the like button, so this is a reminder to everyone, no pressure. Yes, please, if you're enjoying this chat, please hit the like button. And if you're so inclined and you'd like to provide me with a tip, there's a link in the description box, or you could become a member and subscribe to my website for additional content, which would be greatly appreciated. Right on, Spotless. It's a good reality check. Steinwinds, I must have missed some of my programmed conditioning. I was never getting I was calling out Gates on his first TED Talk years back as a rich crowd applauded his Depop plan. Yeah, like some people are blessed to see through the illusion, so good on you. I mean, what sense does it make to have a computer guy be involved in medical issues? How does that even make sense? Speaking of needles, there was a TB shot at school that most kids had. I pretty much stopped going by then, so I never had it, but I have wondered if it was a type of NPC maker. You can't make people into NPCs. But yeah, the whole controversy surrounding all of that. Personally, I don't like it, but I'm not gonna I don't know enough about the science to say anything. Sun Tzu, my son, age 40, 20 years in career, father two, was fired at Christmas time in 2020 for not taking the you-know-what. He moved his family to another state, and rewards and new jobs are coming his way. So yeah, like, it can totally be a divine intervention push for you to move into a different direction. So, I mean, yeah, you can cling to the past and lament over what's lost, or you can embrace the future or where things are headed and move in that direction. So yeah, it's all in how you look at it, really. Adam, I surrender all control to anything other than my own inner work. We are always protected. I mean, that's a good way to look at it, because you can't control what's outside of you. You can only control what's within you. So you can control how you perceive things, and you can control how you think about things. And the external manifestation is a result of all of that. So yeah, I mean, you can look at the same thing and have two opposing perspectives on it. You can say, look at something and think, like, say, like losing the job. You can look at it in a completely positive way, and you can look at it a completely negative way, all at once, all at the same time. So, I mean, I still go through battles, like internal battles of, negative thinking, and then, one day I'm totally consumed in negative thinking, and I know that I shouldn't be, but then making myself wrong for thinking it is just piling on and doubling it. So I accept it, and I say, okay, well, I'm just feeling down today, so I'll let it be. I'll feel better tomorrow. Or, I'll do something to make myself feel better now, but this too shall pass, and so tomorrow I know I will feel differently. So one day I feel this way, next day I feel this way, and the more days that I feel on the positive side, the better. But occasionally these negative days pop up, and it happens. And I handle it better than I did. I handle it better every day. Like I said, it's a process. So you go through the process, and you're able to deal with it better the more it comes up. And your job is to transmute those experiences so that they don't come up as often. And some people are able to, switch. Granted, a lot of the, levels of perception that I've encountered, that I have come to, have switched a lot of things off completely. Coming into collapsing the duality and seeing things as one, and seeing things as two sides of the same coin, that collapsed a lot of fear that I have never looked back on. I've never looked back at that. But then there's other levels of fear, like fear within my own life experience, fears of losing things, or losing people, or losing, experiences, what have you. Those sorts of fears come up, which is a different level of fear. And then there's all sorts of negative thinking that I still have to deal with, and all sorts of experiences that come my way that I still have to process. That, if you haven't learned from it, or maybe it's something new, it's an experience you've never encountered before that you have to deal with. So there's always something. It never gets boring. I mean, it can get boring. I get bored with the mundane sometimes. Where are you from? I'm not from Kelowna, no. I'm in Ontario. But there were forest fires in Kelowna, and there were forest fires here, but Kelowna got destroyed by fire. Mark C., I wouldn't say it's a blessing to see through the illusion. I pretty much dropped out in 4th grade when they were trying to explain how water stuck to a spinning ball. That's when I tuned out. It is a blessing to see through the illusion, but I can understand there is also the flip side of it being painful and isolating. Many moons ago, early in my red pill days, I personally debunked the nuke and days hoax. Good. Yeah. Indeed. A lot of people are still clinging to that. There is no nukes. Therefore, I did not get to make a nice lifestyle for me and my family. Why? Because you dropped out of school? School has nothing to do with success or anything. Life will go on, and it's going on. Just turn off the television and go outside and put your feet on the ground. Yeah, I don't turn the television off though, because I learn from it. I see it differently. DoorDash is available to all of us that want to drop out of the rat race. Yeah, but you're still in the rat race if you're using DoorDash. You take e-transfers. I don't have a credit card. Are you in Canada? Then yes, you can email me. If you want to become a member, there's PayPal as well. But yeah, if you want to become a member through e-transfer, you can email me and I can set it up for you manually. Right on. TV sucks. Feet on the ground. Outdoors awesome. I really enjoy TV. TV talks to me. TV tells me the truth. TV reveals the truth. So I enjoy the TV. But yes, outdoors is awesome. I doubt very seriously there will be a lockdown. People around me are livid over the idea, but that's just my bubble. Rednecks are stubborn. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting if there is one. It will be interesting because of the change in perspective. And you know, there's a neighbor down here who has a sign on the front lawn that says no lockdowns. But like, say, how many of those people, when it comes down to it, are actually going to stick to their word? No, it doesn't. I was a weirdo. That's tough to navigate job interviews, etc. Oh, for sure. But like, you got to get creative and not limit yourself. So, I mean, obviously, if you're trying to get certain careers or whatever that require certain education, yeah, it's going to be tricky. That doesn't mean to say it's not. It doesn't mean to say it's impossible. You just be creative about it. So you might have to be entrepreneurial. You might have to carve your own niche. You might have to, get entangled with somebody who is doing what you want to do. There are other ways of going about it if you're resourceful enough. But yes, obviously, the system has built it such that there's limitations and barriers to entry, but it isn't impossible to find your own niche, find your own path. I find that the system has made an overemphasis on education for that reason, that education, I feel, is overvalued and not worth the investment. What I extracted from my education is more about life experience than the actual learning from the books. I feel I learned very little from the books. I learned more from, socializing, the life experience of going to university, living on campus, living on my own, dealing with life issues independently, doing the projects, being responsible, those sorts of things I learned more from than what the actual books taught me. I learned some things from the books, but yeah, like that whole experience was not really worth it. If I had to do it all over again, would I go back to university? No. I wouldn't even care so much about high school. I would care enough to get out and graduate, but at the same time, like you say, you make it difficult for yourself, but it's not impossible. The only thing is like, a lot of it is just self-exploration. It's trying to figure out who you are and what's important to you and what you want to do and what you're good at. And, I had somebody ask me that once, like, well, how do you know what you're good at? And they were worried about wasting their time in the wrong pursuits. And I said, you can't. Just follow your curiosity and it'll lead you in the right direction, because you're always following that inner guidance. It's leading you all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. And that's something you can't get away from, because it's who you are. So if you're doing something that you hate, like say, you're digging ditches and you don't like it, and it's really not lined up with who you are, you'll probably get fired. You'll probably find it boring. You'll probably skive off. But it doesn't mean you won't learn anything from that experience. You'll learn that it's not for you. So, there's a lot of things, like if you go the wrong direction, it'll just sort itself out. There is no wrong direction. So, yeah, a lot of, like, you can't, if you think you screwed up your life, you didn't. Put it that way. A lot of times, look at things and I was like, wow, that was a big mistake. It's not a mistake. Everything's perfect. So, yeah, it's us being hard on ourselves and saying, well, you screwed that up, or, like teenage pregnancies. A lot of people are like, wow, you screwed up your life. No. I mean, if you have your kid when you're young, you're still young when your kid's grown up. So you still have a whole chunk of your life to live. So you haven't ruined your life. I mean, it's kind of screwed up to say that, but, it depends on what you want for yourself. But anyhow, life is what it is. And there's no point in thinking that it's supposed to be any different. It's a common thing to think that things should be different, and you're only going to create suffering for yourself if you do. It sounds like TV is your oracle, TrueLove. Yes, it is. It is. Mark, see, I had a music career and made it such that I was valuable to other musicians as a fill-in as well as my own performances. Well, see, there you go. You found your own way. Doesn't matter. Surviving, thriving, and just all doesn't matter. Like, if you look at it from the perspective as there's a reason why you were surviving rather than thriving. Because if you look at it from the perspective of, let's say you became a very popular musician and you were, even if you weren't famous, but you were a fill-in for, say, big bands and you made a lot of money, you might not have found the truth. Or if you did, you would have had a harder fall, because you would have seen what the music industry is about and you would have hated it and you would have dropped out, and then you would have been in a really bad situation. Whereas if you are surviving, it gives you better life skills to cope after the truth hits and you're like, oh, okay, I don't know, do I want to keep doing this? Well, it's not so bad because I'm not involved with major labels or what have you, depending on your perspective, of course. So you can continue to survive and continue to do what you love and what you're good at after the truth hits. So there are benefits to survival. There are benefits to not making a lot of money and to, barely getting by. It can be painful and it sucks, but there's also pain associated with having a lot of money. There's a lot of responsibilities that come with having a lot of money. There's a lot of other headaches that come with having a lot of money and being really successful. And the more successful you are, the more things you are attached to. The lower in the sort of financial hierarchy that you are, the less things you're attached to. So there's less for you to undo if something goes wrong. And it's also easier for you to recover if something goes wrong. Not that I'm advocating for it or anything, but it is beneficial depending on how you look at it. So yeah, there are a lot of life skills and survival skills that you learn through that path that you wouldn't have otherwise if it had been easy or if it had been a highly successful trajectory for you. So Dipsy, I say do what makes you feel good and helpful if you end up broke. Yeah, I mean, I think you just follow your curiosity, follow your interests, and if you whatever is in line with who you are and what makes you feel good, but don't get stupid about it. Everything was stolen from me recently. Truck, tools. I had to move back close to the family where I should be now. Sometimes you just have to go along with the script. It all comes out in the wash, Robert. Yeah, exactly. And again, like, you can see things being stolen from you as a very negative experience and get, all of that stuff stolen from you. You have to move back to the family. It's a very negative experience. And, you can get depressed about it, or you can see it as a fresh start, and you can see it as a turnaround point, and you can see it as pushing you in the right direction. There's a reason you're close to your family. It was God's divine intervention. Like, there's a lot of positive ways to look at it, and there's a lot of negative ways to look at it. So it's your choice, and there's nothing wrong with looking at it both ways. You can mourn the loss of what you have had stolen from you, but don't stay there. Yeah, I mean, it's devastating to have that all taken from you, and it's okay to be upset about it if you need to be. It's also okay if you're not upset about it. Some people bounce back quickly, and they're like, oh, well, c'est la vie, let's move on. What's next? Where are we going? Okay, God put me here. Well, the universe put me here. I put myself here. My higher self told me I have to be here. This is part of the script. What do we got next? What's coming? I mean, it would be great to have that kind of attitude. So if you can get there, great. But it's okay if you don't. It's okay if you are upset for a while. It's okay if you're angry for a little while. Just don't misdirect your anger at somebody who doesn't deserve it. So yeah, it all comes out in the wash for sure. Mark C., I think Sheryl Crow said it best. It's not having what you want. It's wanting what you've got. Yeah, exactly. We've been conditioned in this society to constantly focus on the next thing and completely overlook what we have now. It's never enough, like, it's always about building, growing, moving on, bigger, better, keeping up with the Joneses, having the next version of the iPhone. And like I said, I hold on to my iPhone for 6 years until the thing doesn't upgrade anymore because the software is too big. But like, if it didn't, I'd still have I'd probably still have my iPhone 4. Like, if the battery didn't die and if the software kept upgrading, I'd still have my first cell phone. I wouldn't need another one. And, I try to do without all the fancy bells and whistles. I do my best to buy things that I need and be careful about what I purchase and what I spend my money on. So, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in what's next and what's next. Even in truth, it's easy to get caught up in what's next and not appreciate where you're at and not appreciate the stage that you're at and the things that you've learned, and be grateful about where you are in your path and what you've learned and how you've gotten where you are. I mean, even to be where we are right now, and to look back and say how far you've come and how much you've learned, and how much you've grown and evolved, and how your perception has changed, and taking a moment to appreciate that is really valuable, because you can easily get caught up in, well, what's next? And I mentioned this before, where I notice a lot of people they'll take in a video and they'll say, okay, but what about this? I was like, okay, well, take a second to appreciate what you learned from this. Then let's talk about what comes next. Because if you don't take in what you've learned from this moment, you can't progress, because it hasn't absorbed, you haven't processed it yet. So how can you build on something that you haven't processed? You can't. You have to take it in, you have to process it, you have to understand it, you have to, embody it. It has to be in you. You have to be living it. Oh, I know exactly what the music industry is about. It was not something I felt like dealing with. Well, same with the film industry. If I had been higher up in my, where my ambitions, it would have been a hard fall. And so, yeah, the fact that I wasn't, it was easier to let go of, for sure. But it's all fine. All of it was a learning experience. All of it was necessary. All of it was part of the process to get me here, to do what I'm doing now. The phrase "to be relieved of something isn't accidental." Are we androgynous? I'm not sure I understand the question. I pretty much had that attitude: sucks, still alive, move on. Yeah. Good for you. Mark C, I agree with you on the iPhone 4. Yeah, it was a good phone. I like the size of it. It was nice and small. Spotless, ironically, I had that emotion too, somewhat relieved. My cracked screen mid-range Android still does the job. Yeah, well, if I had a cracked screen, I'd get that replaced, but I understand where you're coming from. Spotless, yeah, Robert, you no longer had to carry a certain weight. My phone is so old, I have to dial these comments up. It takes so long that I'm typing this in 2022. That's funny. So, I don't know if Adam is still here. He was on. He was driving, but he brought up the whole jailbreak thing. Never talked about it. I heard about 9/23. Yeah, 9/23 is the same as 9/11. Do you know where I get that from? 23 is 11 o'clock, so it's 9/11. I've been accumulating tons of equipment, implements, clients, projects, post hoax. It's very insane. I was struggling endlessly to get out of the pit for 15 years. Universe intervention, I'm convinced. Well, that's great. So yeah, I mean, yes, like sometimes the things that seem bad are actually there to steer you in a different direction and are actually good. A lot of people think some things will happen September 23rd. Yeah, I heard that too. But nothing really happens September 23rd. I mean, it's not to say that something won't, you know, anything's possible. Mark, if I think about the 11-year-old me wanting to be the next Eddie Van Halen and then realizing that it took an act of the devil to do so around 25, that was part of the learning that was necessary. Well, I don't think that it takes an act of the devil. I think that's a red herring. I think that that is part of the deception to keep you out of it. Is basically the elite control it for a reason because you can't do what they do. And if you were allowed in the gates, if you were allowed in the door, then you would see what they do. And, you know, the cat would be out of the bag. You can't have access to that. So there's, on a certain level, I mean, there's, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like, same with the film industry, you know, the same sort of rumors apply to that industry as music, which is basically the same industry. It's all Hollywood. But, I mean, I have been around all sorts of famous people, all sorts of writers, directors, actors, producers, like all of those types of people. And that they're just like normal people. You talk to them, they're like normal people. But there is a gap between you and them that isn't, you can't really cross over that gap. Even if you become, you know, you can become a regular kind of actor or a regular working actor, you're not going to cross over to the other side of being a star. There's certain things that you can't do. So like there, to me, that there's this sort of illusion that they create that keeps you out. So I don't think that it's actually real though. I'm rescuing kittens and cats to the tune of around 30 so far. I think the kitties are instrumental. Wow. Okay, cool. 9/23 is my sister's birthday. Predictive programming like 9/11. Yeah, but it has esoteric meaning. And, you know, I have explained it in my Tiffany Gomez decode, which is available on my website. So you have to be a member to be able to access that. But if you want to know what it is, that's where it is. Prediction dates are usually wrong. Yeah, they usually are. I was interested in your analysis. Oh, you're stuffing your face. I was interested in your analysis on it and what you thought my thoughts on Discord. Yeah, your insights were good. A lot of the insights into that event were good. I haven't done a breakdown of it myself, but some of the things in there are, kind of obvious, like the fact that they broke out of jail being the prison or the prism, the mind prism. And so they broke out of jail, and he hid under a truck which had a sun on it, a rising sun. So he came out of jail by hitching a ride on the sun. So that's how you escape the prison, by hitching a ride on the sun. And the jail was shaped kind of like a Cairo, with the cross and the P, the row in the middle. It was missing a loop, but you got the X with the P basically, so it was Cairo. Also, I think there was something about Chiswick, and Chi or Chi is also, the Christos, the Cairo. So Chiswick and wick has to do with the candle. Candle is about the oil, the anointment oil. And and you mentioned that he was arrested because of a hoax bombing, which he said was a fake awakening, the fake Kundalini. Because, if it's a hoax bombing, then there's no explosion. So the connection's not made again. And there's, so if the connection's not made, there's no explosion. So yeah, like, it seems pretty accurate to me. So some pretty good decoding going on in the Discord group, which is good to see. I should have said that different. I would have had to give up a good chunk of myself to play the game with them. Yeah. Sorry about the vacuum in the hall. Adam, you're slacking. Do your job instead of stuffing your face. Mainly because I don't get enough characters to truly type my thoughts into here. Stephen Watson, you're new. Hello. It's a great big club and you ain't in it. George Carlin, indeed. My job right now is to stuff my face, and I'm excelling. Well, it's funny because I was watching this video. I don't know why this is coming up now, but there's a Netflix show about the supermodels, and somebody had put out a video on YouTube about how you'll never be a model. And he was explaining from a kind of logical standpoint about how modeling is hard. You don't get paid for your jobs. People are always trying to scam you and trying to, give you stuff instead of payment for your job. And it's very competitive. So anyway, the whole thing is, he didn't even touch on the fact that it's an exclusive members only club that you're not welcome to be part of. So you're not going to be a model because you're not an invert. So you can't be part of the club. You can get low-level jobs. Like with all of these industries, the ceiling is only so high. And you're welcome to participate in the low level. You're welcome to be part of that, but you can't break the ceiling. So you can be, a model who does the occasional runway. You can do the occasional editorial, and you can do the occasional ad campaign. But most of the time, you're going to do commercial modeling, which is like Sears catalogs and that sort of thing. Because you're not going to be a Cindy Crawford. You're not going to be a Naomi Campbell. It's not possible. Those are reserved for the elite. That's their job, because their job is to put the show on for you. Their job is to be on the grand stage of life. Loves Cat, my birthday, 3/23/73, 23. I find it exceptionally strange seeing that all these numerical codes are so prevalent. Maybe I come back to smash evil. Maybe it means nada. There's no evil. Evil is a perception. I mean, it's a matter of perspective. But you can't smash it. So, and 923 doesn't represent evil anyhow. Robert Arthur Davis, Adam, I'm good at it too. We'll give you a pass. You think the sun is some sort of portal? Yes, it's a portal. Andrea, I don't know if you're interested in other content providers. There's someone who deconstructs TV called I Am Truth, or yes, I've talked to him. And I learned a lot from his channel. David Baxendale, why are you here? Who are you asking a question of? Fascinating stuff. Makes me want to hook up my TV again. Okay. Kind of insulted. Like, anyway, any interest in decoding hell? No, I won't even watch it. As I mentioned, the World Trade Center tower potentially depicts open Pandora's box. I think there's something there. What do you want? Who are you talking to, David Baxendale? What's your take on the Paul McCartney thing? It's just what do you mean, Paul McCartney thing? The escaped prisoner seemed to look about 12. Chai for child. The picture is possibly AI as well. Could be AI. I don't know. I haven't seen the picture. You have to have a clear desire, a strong and specific intent. Who are you talking to? The root of all evil is not money, but laziness. I'm getting really into the Beatles and memoirs of Billy Shears, and there's a hell of a lot of symbolism and esoteric information in both the band and the conspiracy. If you don't know where you're going, then there's no basis for judging one direction better or worse than another. At first, I didn't think it mattered whether it was Paul or not. Now I see there's a lot of messaging behind the whole thing, but ultimately it's part of the movie and a message for all of us. McCartney being replaced. Yeah, I don't really care. I know a lot of people are obsessed with it. I took some time to look at it a while ago, like years ago. And it's interesting, but so what? I mean, I don't really see, like say, I don't see that it matters. And, you know, I don't know. If you see there's a message in it, I'm sure the message is also relayed elsewhere. Lennon, too, as well as Page and Plant and Springsteen. David talks in cliches, AI. Okay, well, I don't know, David. You don't seem to be having an actual conversation with anybody. Was so obviously replaced, his voice suddenly took a nosedive around 1973. I'm a musician like you're an actress, so decoding the music has been my oracle. It matters in the same way, I suppose. Well, I wouldn't call myself an actress, but anyway, yeah, like You can decode the music and everything, but I don't really see how the Beatles being replaced or anything really matters. Used to love the theories here. It's getting a little too cultish now. No one more. What are you talking about, Bubscat? That kind of came out of nowhere. Don't forget, most rabbit holes are full of rabbit shit. Yeah. I don't understand, Bubscat. You sound like you're turning, and it came out of nowhere. So I don't know what you're on about, but um, I don't know what you're talking about, and I kind of don't appreciate it. There's a lot of twin messaging and esoteric knowledge, but it doesn't all hinge on Paul McCartney. It's just another example of that message and story. Yeah, I know the Beatles were huge. You think I'm like sleeping under a rock or something? Yeah, I know that they changed. Yeah, I know all of that. I just don't see the point in knowing whether they were replaced or not. It's not about the Beatles or any band, but the machine behind it, and it's not the be all and end all. Yeah, like you can get sucked into that for a long time, and that's what I found was it was just an endless time sucker. Okay, David, I don't know what you're talking about, and it's kind of getting a little bit weird. And then, I don't know, like what I do, take it for what it is and place it as another brick in the wall. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these things that are just time suckers, and but like how does it change your perspective on the world? Like, yeah, they can do these sorts of things. Sure they can. Like they replace actors on soap operas like nothing and pretend nothing ever happened. So it's possible, but there's a lot of these sorts of rabbit holes that they just they're just time suckers. So yeah, I agree, Adam. I mean, I don't understand where it came from, and frankly, I'm a little, you know, concerned about that kind of a comment. Seems weird towards the end of these streams. Smiths come out of the woodwork, Robert. Yeah, I agree. Like sometimes it just turns south for no reason. And it's like, yeah, certain people just either they turn or they pop up and want to cause a disturbance. What really is spiritual warfare? Well, depends on how you want to look at it, but really it's you fighting with you. the truth can be triggering. Well, the truth should be triggering. Truth is triggering. It's going to upset you. And, you know, it's going to turn your life upside down. So, yeah, it can be triggering. It should be triggering. It's like we live in the 911 trauma center. So, you know, it's not a smooth ride. And listen, if you're in a situation where somebody says something you don't like and you're going down a different path, that's totally fine. You're not there, or it doesn't work for you. Maybe you're not meant to go down that path. But projecting that onto somebody else and making it their fault is not true, and it's not accurate, and it's not helpful. If you disagree with somebody and you disagree with their point of view, then go somewhere else. But it doesn't mean that what somebody else is saying, or somebody else's perspective, or somebody else's approach is wrong. It means you're not prepared to hear it, and it's not right for you. That's totally fine. But don't start a war over it. If you don't like it, you know where to go. You can leave. If you're trying to stir up trouble or attack because you don't like it, that has nothing to do with anybody here but you. So if that's the case, you can leave. I'm not here for that. It's just a phrase that I hear so much, and I'm not sure everyone really knows what it is. Spiritual warfare, in my opinion, is a battle with yourself. It's not a battle outside of yourself. Yeah, like, exactly. Generally speaking, people in the truth community, when they talk about spiritual warfare, are talking about outside of themselves. It's like angels and demons and a battle good between evil, and as if there's a separation, which there isn't. So they're seeing it as this sort of behind the scenes battle of these hidden energies and the hidden forces of God and the devil. Well, there is no God and the devil. It's all you. It's all internal. So if somebody, like a lot of the religious camps tend to think that way and tend to look at it that way. But yeah, it isn't a spiritual warfare. I mean, you can see it that way for sure, but you're only going to put yourself into the duality battle by seeing it that way, because again, you're putting it outside of yourself and saying you're a victim to this spiritual battle of good versus evil. And how do you stop that? How do you do anything about that? How do you take any control or responsibility for that when it's all about angels and demons that are outside of you? It's nothing to do with you. So how are you participating in this spiritual warfare if you're looking at it in that way? If you're looking at it as, like Supernatural, the TV show, where they're going around killing demons and stuff, it's not something that's possible. Funny it is. It's in human nature to get in groups and discuss certain subjects. It doesn't fall in line with what a cult means. No, it doesn't. There's nothing wrong with me, like-minded people sharing like-minded topics and discussing them. And also, this is my channel. I'm going to talk about my perspective. And if you don't agree with my perspective, it's totally fine, but express it in a calm, rational way, and I can entertain a different perspective or different possibility. But if I don't agree with it, I'm going to say so. I don't care if you agree with it or not, but I'm not going to start a war over it with you. If you don't like what content I have to present, if you don't like my point of view, there's no need for you to be here. I don't declare that you need to think a certain way and that you cannot think another way and that you can't talk to other people and you cannot associate with other people. There's no, I'm by myself. As Devin Maggi was saying, people have said that he's holding a cult, and he has nobody around him. I have nobody around me. I'm just sharing what I learn. I'm sharing what I know. I'm helping people largely for free. I'm doing this to my personal detriment. How is that a cult? I'm not making a huge amount of money. I'm making very little. I'm not even covering my bills. I'm in debt. So I'm sharing what I know largely for free to my personal detriment because I believe in what I know. I believe in my experiences of going through the awakening process to try and help other people. If it helps other people, great. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. But it's just not your path. It's just not for you. That's fine. I'm helping because this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm helping because I have certain information that I have to share. And that's my responsibility. My responsibility is to share what I know. My responsibility is to impart what I know. And you take it or leave it. That's not cultish at all. A lot of people here have very different opinions, and they express those opinions, and I encourage that you express those opinions. But I'm just trying to help people, and if you don't appreciate it, you can go. You're welcome to leave. If it was a cult, you wouldn't be welcome to leave. Spotless, take no notice. We've all had the passive aggressive types on the internet. They just want to feel alive for once. Yeah, for sure. Hell yeah, chase away those trolls. In 12 steps, everyone gets to say, and there's rotation of leadership, and still people will call it a cult. Yeah, Steven Snowman, late to the stream. Still hope you decode too late. 2015. Great double bill with Under the Silver Lake. I got way too much on my plate at the moment, and I did have a look at the trailer. I don't think Bubscat truly understands the definition of cult. I don't think so either. When there is no evil as espoused, I take issue. Okay, fine. But you're obviously not seeing things from the higher perspective, and that's totally fine. I never claim to understand or definitely know what, where, why, hence the cultish reference. Okay, bye. Sorry you feel that way, but after being here for years, obviously you're probably already gone. But anyway, I'm kind of disappointed because you've been on my channel for years, and suddenly you're turning because I have expressed something that you disagree with and you can't see past. Even though I have seen you grow over the years, you were so stuck in the fear, and I got you past that point, or at least I know I helped get you past that point. You did the work. But for you to call it a cult because I'm saying that there's no evil, it's a perception, like you don't know what a cult is. I don't know. I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed that that's your perception and you're projecting it onto me and making it my issue when it isn't. It's your issue that you have with a concept I've expressed. So, and I have been talking about this for years, so it's not new. You often express how it's okay to disagree with you with respect. There's no doctrine. Yeah. We know you're authentic. That's why we're here. I'm just trying to be myself and share what I know. And, it is not easy. It's fucking hard. It is very hard to do this, but it's for whatever reason, I'm supposed to do it. And I've been trained to be able to do it, but it's still hard. It's hard to to share, first of all, on a platform like this. It's hard to keep going. It's hard to process being somebody, like to share things and sort of feel at times an imbalance, and also, to deal with haters, to deal with people you've invested your time in for years, who are seemingly like they get it, and then all of a sudden they turn on you. So you feel like somebody who was either friendly or a friend suddenly turns and stabs you in the back. That is very difficult. And, I care probably too much. And I'm trying not to care as much. I'm trying to just share what I know and leave it at that. But it's very difficult. And I don't think I would be here if I didn't care. Like I said, sharing this stuff to my personal detriment, I don't know. It's kind of fucked up, really. But like, I don't know. Yeah, look, like, we all have our own individual unique perspectives on life and our unique experiences in life, and we see things perhaps from different angles, but really essentially we're saying the same thing, or maybe we're not there yet. And so some of the things I say you don't quite understand because you're not there yet, or some of the things I haven't experienced yet, whatever. So, in especially if you're in the fear camp, the stuff I say will trigger you, because people want to believe the fear. They want to have something external to point a finger at. They want to believe in the evil. They want to believe in the bad. They want to, be a victim to it. Perfectly fine. If that's where you want to be, perfectly fine. But it doesn't serve you. I'm trying to help you get beyond that. But if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. But like, it's triggering. It's triggering because people point to the evil and say, but what about that? So yeah, it's probably the most dangerous territory to tread on, because it triggers people, because people want to believe in the evil, and you got to let it go. If you can't let go of the evil and you can't move past the good and evil battle, you're never going to get out of here. And if you don't want to get out of here, cling to it, stick to it. That's totally fine. It's totally fine. She most certainly provides an awesome place for expressing ideas and self. Bubscat, you're going to miss a hell of a lot of inner exploration. Yeah. Sad about Bubscat after 4 years, Sun Tzu. Yeah. He's been here for probably 4 years. And, it saddens me when I see that, because, yeah. Reverend Galileo, late to video, been listening while piddling around the house. Kudos to everything. I'm happy to be here. Love the discussion, reaching new understanding. Thank you. Take in consideration that Americans are medicated, in bad shape, and often drunk online. Sometimes ego takes over. Yeah. We appreciate you, TrueLove. Thank you, Aristocat. Nothing is too much, no price is too high, because of life of ignorance and self-deceit. Yeah, well, we all appreciate this. You're supposed to do this because we're all resonating with you, and it's the proof you need. Thanks, Mark C. If he's an adult, he'll be back after he cools off. I hope so. I mean, it's totally fine if he comes back and, apologizes. I mean, I've had people who come back and say, that they have learned a lot after they said things that caused me to block them. But, if you're going to behave like a dick, you're not welcome back here without an apology. Not to say that he was behaving like a dick, but in general. This is why you need your space that we discussed last week, pearls before swine. Exactly. So, the people who understand where I'm coming from and understand what I'm talking about, like, this is why creating my website and having a space off YouTube, which is a more private environment, is a more protected environment, is beneficial because we're able to express freely how we perceive things and without, distractions of people who can't see it. But the people who are in the place where they can't yet see it but want to see it, they're totally welcome. The people who can't see it and fight to stay there, it's not really the place for you. If you're going to fight to stay there, then why are you watching my channel at all? If you're there and you're having a hard time getting over it, but you want to get over it, I can understand that. I can relate to that. I can also understand, being frustrated with the concept and not understanding the concept and having a hard time getting out of that concept. But don't take it out on me. That I don't appreciate that. I'm just trying to help. It's like, ugh. Anyway. But yeah, casting pearls before swine. There's going to be a lot of disruption coming because of all of the stuff that's happening, all the things that are going on right now. If there's another lockdown, there's going to be a huge awakening, and the stuff that's happening in Maui is part of the huge awakening. Things are only going to compile and get more dramatic, I guess you could say, because it has to. And, if this was happening, decades ago where people weren't awakening in droves, then I would say things are not going to change. But the way things are now, things are going to change, and a lot of people are going to wake up, and a lot of people who have been in the conspiracy camp are looking for more and looking to get out of that. Then they're going to start coming my way, like to people like me who talk about this stuff, to try and get them out of the conspiracy think, the fear think. So, but like I said, it's few and far between. This is a narrow path. There's not many of us. Like, partly why my channel is so small. But the tide's going to turn. So there's going to be a lot more people, and they're going to be rushing the Christmas tree. If you haven't seen Poseidon Adventure Decode, they're going to rush the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is going to topple. They're going to want to get out, and it'll be too late because they haven't done the work. So for the people who do get it, little channels like mine need support. Little channels like mine, we need to be able to make it through and stick around. And, I can't do that without you. I think we're all here at this time to experience what we're to experience in this time frame for greater purpose for which none of us can really know totally, except, to some extent, I kind of know. Beyond that, perhaps not. But within the scheme of the tarot story and the tarot play, you can figure out your purpose here in the play and your role here, and what you're supposed to accomplish. So there's that. But ultimately, we are here to align with our archetypal self, to remember who we really are, so we can exit out and finish the play and finish the story, because the story is coming to an end. And so the story can end, or it can begin all over again. Like I said, at the end of Westworld, Dolores said, one more loop around the bend. She started the story all over again. So either the story perpetuates or you exit out. Lighthouses deserve company. Yeah, It would be nice. English is such that if one talks enough, there might seem to be contradictions. We're trying to understand and talk with language that doesn't have any clear words to describe these subjects. Yeah, like, I mean, I do my best to translate what I understand, especially like articulating the frequencies. So sometimes the messages that I will get in terms of understanding the story or expressing an experience is very clear in frequency, but then when you have to translate the frequency into language, it doesn't get so clear. But the only way that we understand anything is through language. So if I tune in, you can tune in through meditation, you can receive the messages and translate them into language. But language refines the message. This is why the divine language is symbolism. So English has multiple meanings to it, which is why you have to look at the etymology to understand the true meaning of the words. So, and you also understand through etymology the associations of one word to another, the links to other words and the root words and where they're formed from, because they all come from the zodiac, and so it tells the star story. So the language, English, is angelish, it's coming from the stars. But all languages come from the stars. They're just different interpretations, and there's a lot of truth and etymology and in those languages as well. So English is limiting in terms of translating the frequency, but it is the language that we have. And so in order to better understand fully the meaning of each word, you have to look at the etymology to see its multi-dimensional contextual meaning. I hope you can see this as a reflection of them projected onto you and not personally. I totally do see it that way. If you're in a situation where you just don't agree with somebody and you blame them, like, that doesn't even make any sense. Glenn, came in late here in the last half hour. Appreciate the example of freedom from good and evil that you display, true love. Well, thank you. By total contrast. Nolan Owen, I think it takes a lot of courage and intelligence to do what you do so consistently. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I've had inner battles about doing this, and I just keep doing it because I know that I have to, and it's just how I go about doing it that changes from time to time. Robert, a lot of people I know were normie acting. I am surprised at the questions some are asking now. Most are still deer in the headlights, though. Well, that's good. So you're noticing some awakening going on. If there's another lockdown, NPCs definitely create reality. That's why I tried to learn Latin. I think it's the Latin language of decoding. Yeah, there's Latin and what's it called? Forget the word now. No wonder I always wanted to learn Latin. I don't think language is averse to the duality of this world. Averse to this duality. If there's a language for the right, there's the language for the left. Yeah, totally. A lot of times there's duality even within the word. The word itself has dual meaning. That it means both the complete opposite. When I tune into meditation, I really feel in the middle pillar. That's good, which is what you should do. It's next to impossible with the other distractions. Res ipsa loquitur. What does that mean? The thing is as it appears. Cool. I wanted to take Latin in high school, but they canceled the class before I could get there. As being in this trauma center isn't for the lighthearted, and it takes a lot to surrender to the fact that there is no evil. It takes a huge and brave heart. Yeah, like, I mean, you can look at it 2 ways and say, okay, there is and there isn't. Same with everything. Everything is and isn't at the same time. But my point about the evil is that if you can find some good in it, it can't be wholly bad. So yeah, you can cast judgment on something and say that that's evil and say that that's bad, but you're the one who's casting the judgment. The person doing it may not think that way. The person doing it may think that the reason they're doing it is because it's good and it serves some good. So, even just something as simple as looking at the elite. You can look at the elite and you can look at what they're doing and look at like their control and their hold on the whole world and whatever you want to look at it. If you look at the elite, you can say that they're evil. But they can also be said to be doing God's work. You can say that they're doing a good thing by waking the people up. So yeah, I mean, you can point your finger at anything and say, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, what about this? And make excuses and find things to cling to. But the whole point is to find the good within it. So it isn't to say, I mean, he obviously wasn't listening to me because I already said this. I said, it isn't to say that the evil is not bad. It isn't to say that there are not bad things that happen here. Obviously, like, your perception of, like, say, somebody dying, that's a bad thing for you. But is it necessarily a bad thing objectively? Somebody causing harm to somebody else, this is a bad thing, but is it a bad thing objectively? So if you can look at it from a different perspective, then it is not wholly bad. That's the whole point, is to look at it from a different perspective, to get to the neutral point, to understand that it's a thing that happened and you're looking at it from the negative perspective, whereas it's still possible to look at it from a positive perspective. It cannot be wholly bad. Sanskrit, yeah, that's another language that's worth looking at. If you can't come past that notion, it means there's a lot of healing you've yet to be done. Wishing that for everyone. Yeah, that's another thing too. A lot of people cling to it because they've been personally wounded, and they hold to the fact that there's bad things that happen and bad people out there. And if you do something, then that defines you. You do something that you think is bad, you define that person as bad. There's no room for redemption. There's no room for them to change, because you have now labeled that person as bad because they did this thing that you think is bad. So you've put them in the bad box. Like, this is bad. You did this bad thing. Therefore, you are bad and you will never be good. So if somebody's done something bad to you that you perceive to be bad and they've hurt you, it's very difficult to get past that point because you're clinging to the notion that that person is bad or evil and they've done a bad thing to you. Therefore, they have to be bad. And looking at that painful, horrible thing that happened to you and trying to find good in it is way too painful. And a lot of people are in that camp who will not find forgiveness, will not look at the good in it, will not want to move past that point, and so they'll cling to it. And it's totally fine. If you can't get past it, it's okay. But that doesn't mean that it isn't right for others to move past it. It doesn't mean that it isn't a true thing to be able to see things from a different perspective so you can free yourself from it, because you're holding yourself in that box. You're putting yourself in that box just as much as you're putting that other person in a box. The elite can also look at us and say we're evil. Sure they can. Listen, if you look at it from the perspective of, if you're looking at the world from the perspective of they're our enemy, well then, and they're trying to kill us. If that's your perspective, then you can put yourself in the shoes of the elite and you can look at us as the enemy and you're trying to kill them. So, you have to have the flexibility to change your perception and see things from different angles. Otherwise, you put yourself in a box. That's all. The whole thing is just about perception. It's all about perception. We created the elite. If you hate yourself, then maybe so. Yeah, like if that's understanding that we created the elite is a hard hurdle to overcome. Understanding that seeing things from a non-physical perspective is hard for a lot of people. You can't get past the idea that I am separate from you and I am separate from this sofa and this screen and this poster. It's all like physical things, and that's how you see things, and you can't get past that point. It's going to be very difficult for you to get past the good evil thing. It's going to get difficult to get past the duality thing. And for some people, they're not meant to go past that point. Totally fine. But if you want to go past that point, then you have to try to look at things in a different way. And if you're looking at the elite and pointing at, the perpetrators and saying they're at fault, it's your creation and you have put them there. You have endowed them with the power to rule over you. And now you're saying to them, hey, jailer, you're a nasty, evil person, but you put yourself there. Decode Jacob's Ladder chiropractic scene, demons turn into angels. I'm not familiar with that. I bet Sanskrit is older than Latin. Oh, for sure it is. I believe it's very hard to date anything due to the amount of deception surrounding history. Well, here's how I look at it, because, right now there's this big movement for truthers to basically rewrite history, which they're doing a bad job of it, making shit up that's not true and saying that it is true, and it's all nonsense. But the way I look at it is like, if you can see how history is written today, you can see how they come up with the stories today. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if the history is accurate or not, because it's the story that matters. So, the The point is to understand the story. Whether or not it happened in history is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The thing too is so like when I look at mythology and I look at the star story and I understand my story and my past lives, I guess you can say, I look at these stories as it doesn't matter like the date. What matters is that that story happened and that story is part of my story and how I connect to that story and understand myself better. So because also when you connect to that story and you see yourself in it, it becomes present. So the time is irrelevant. It really is irrelevant because it all is happening now anyway. So yeah, like the dates are just numbers. So every angel, there's a demon. If you zoom out far enough, it just is universal nature, non-duality. Yeah, like the whole point, like you have to zoom out far enough. You have to have a higher perspective. So like that's what kind of what Christ consciousness is. It's showing you the levels. And if you're down here, you're looking at things in the physical level. When you're up here, you're looking at things from a stellar level, from the heavens. So now you can see all the various layers. And this is the play that we're on the stage. But like you are up here. And so you can see how the whole play is acted out. Being a lot of people can't get past the physical level, can't get past like seeing things in a physical sense of the play as being real. I'm American in 1812. You Canadians were bad. According to Canadians, we were bad. I forgive you for being Canadian. Yeah, Robert. Yeah, exactly. You know, that's the same with World War II. It was like in World War II, Germans were bad. And to Germans, the British were bad. But like, who's right, who's wrong? They're both right, they're both wrong. Like, they're both fighting each other because they were told that the other is the enemy. It's all perception. To a blade of grass, the cow is evil. To the cow, the tiger is evil. And to the farmer, the tiger is evil. Yeah, exactly. Everyone thought the Titanic was a disaster. The lobsters in the kitchen thought it was a miracle. I like it. It's funny. I guess the elite are reflections of us, whatever we want to see, perversions, murder, conspiracy. Yeah, like they provide the story, whatever you want to see, for sure. Yeah, it is brilliant. I like the Titanic lobster thing. Love and hope. Hello. Enjoying electrical storm, breaking the high heat we've had. Thought of you at the outdoor pool as my friend arrived with 2 cups of slushy drink, the red and the blue. Why no middle pillar option? Just mix the two. Yeah, Robert, you have to mix them. My calzone is done. How's that for perception? Excelente. Well, it's 5:00. Any last comments? Any last thoughts? It's been a very good chat. Time's just flown by. And when I was first waking up, I was devastated. Now I'm incredibly grateful. For sure. It was, yeah. Again, perception. When I first woke up, I thought this world was evil and it was terrifying and horrifying. Now I find it to be a magical place. So it all changes with perception. Yes, this was a fun one. I'm glad you found it fun. I found it fun too. Like the last few ones have been particularly fun. It's unfortunate about Bubscat. Hopefully he's able to come out of it, but this happens. So I find it sad. Have a great night. It's okay to be Canadian, kinda. It's okay to be American, kinda. But so if you are enjoying my content and you find it helpful, and you have found my content helpful, and especially if you have been someone who's watched my channel for quite some time, please consider becoming a paid member, because it is the only way to keep me going. It's the only way to keep this content coming. And I find this content is incredibly valuable. And I've been providing this content for free for years and can't do it anymore. So it's really helpful to keep me going so that I can continue to provide this content and keep these live chats going and continue to share the information that I have. So I'd really appreciate it if you would consider doing that. If you've been considering becoming a member and haven't done so yet, please consider doing it today. Because, why put it off? And that way I can continue to focus on the content and not be concerned with, how am I going to pay my bills all the time? So also I'll be able to grow the community and grow the benefits that I can provide you when the community grows. There's a lot of really exciting things that I want to implement with my website. I added a forum so we can discuss things on the website as a paid member. And one of the things I want to add too is something like this with a call-in feature where we talk and have conversations. But some of the things that we want to share are a lot more advanced than this and a lot more personal than this. But because they're more advanced and personal, they're a lot more beneficial and tap into a lot of deeper knowledge and deeper truths that are highly beneficial, that would help us tap into our power and tap into who we really are. And so that's one thing that I want to add, but I can't do that until I have a healthy amount of members, because otherwise it's a waste of time and energy. Next week, Bubscat mixes with Dave to make an annoyed robot. I'm grateful for you. Thank you. Thanks for everything, sister. Love everything esoteric. Lots of wisdom. Peace to everyone. This is the best chat around. Thanks, Sunsu. Well, you guys make it that way. So thank you very much. The links are in the description box. The links to my website is truelove.com/membership is the page. I know a few people have joined as a non-paying member, and I don't know if you're aware that there's a section to go to become a paid member to access all the additional content. There's 2 existing videos in the Woman on the Plane series. Tomorrow, a third one's going to come out, and it's the Man on the Plane. And I'm already working on the Maui fires decode. And so that's to come. So the Man on the Plane decode will come out tomorrow morning. And so look for that if you're already subscribed. And there's also 3 available videos in the devoted section. The Johnny Depp Dark Shadows, the Poseidon Adventure, and Free Guy Decodes are in there. So, yeah, thank you very much. All right, well, I appreciate all your support and everything in the chat, and how we worked well together to overcome some of the obstacles, shall we say. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. You too. Have a great rest of your weekend. And happy 9/11 tomorrow. Bye, everybody.